Hey everyone. I think over time, reacting to videos of famous comedians has just made me hate them all in all, because by now, I've seen at least 5 stories where they've just been irritating in any situation that wasn't a stand-up set. My theory on why is because most comedians are miserable deep down and very cynical, which does not clash well at all with people that are in comparison a bit more positive. Podcast hosts, for example, where their entire purpose is to be interesting to listen to. So if you have a lot of guests every week or so, you have to learn to naturally be interested in any topic, to not, make the conversation painful to listen to. So mix that with the complete polar opposite behavior of a miserable comedian, especially if they're a bit older, because it kind of becomes part of the character to just be a grumpy person that hates the world. And if you want to see a good showcase of that, then there's no better place than an interview in a podcast.
It was the 84th episode of the H3 podcast. Host Ethan Klein chose to interview his favorite comedian Bill Burr.
And I was such a big fan of Bill Burr, obviously, who is he's a legend.
But after 54 minutes of talking...
You can already tell from the start that it's going to end up bad. That's from the title, but of course, when he shows up on a podcast talking about it.
Altered permanently.
That's when I started taking antidepressants after that episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, you'll need to remember a specific date, the 12th of September 2018. It was not only the day when the episode was first posted, but it was also a day when viewers were already annoyed at Ethan for something he'd done prior. You see, just 5 days beforehand on the 7th of September, Ethan used his H3H3 Productions main channel to advertise a game they'd been building, which was especially annoying since they hadn't uploaded anything else over the previous 3 months. We waited 3 months for a 2.5 minute ad. I can't skip the ad for some reason. So disappointing.
Oh god, just a game, dude. God.
Standalone video.
A good fan would play the game and dump money into it.
H3H3 vid, with the backlash prompting Ethan to respond via Twitter. This therefore established that in the same week as interviewing Bill Burr, Ethan was not only increasingly prone to criticism, but his confidence had also been crushed.
There was a lot going on in my head.
Which was certainly...
You don't have a good fan base when they demand videos from you 24/7.
Bill Burr had been running his own Monday morning podcast since May of 2007, meaning he had 11 years of podcasting experience compared to Ethan's year and a half. Ethan skipped all the side quests and went straight for the boss. Ethan was therefore extremely nervous from the moment the episode started.
I am so neurotic.
I just want to say, what do you talk about for 11 years straight? I feel like if I had a podcast, I'd talk about like interesting stuff I'd see at the store for like 10 episodes and then just quit. Your life can't be that interesting.
I don't think that's gonna help.
How do you? Was there ever? No, trust me, I'm on edge.
Only made worse given Ethan and his wife were both massive fans of Bill Burr's show.
Like we were listening to his podcast every day during that time.
Ethan therefore also began the episode with a compliment, although there was a reason this made Bill somewhat uncomfortable. In a Hollywood Reporter interview, it was stated, even a compliment can potentially rub Burr the wrong way. As Bill explained, if someone was really nice, I would just be like, get away from me. If someone was an asshole, it's like, oh, that seems familiar. For whatever reason...
how is that his fault for being nice?
Killed the episode from the second...
Yeah, he should have definitely known way before that he likes being treated badly like an asshole.
Bill's podcast, and Bill came into this podcast with an attitude of, I don't know who you are, I don't give a shit.
As mentioned, it quickly became...
Oh my god, is he one of those comedians that knows he's tough shit and been on the game for quite a while, that he treats any new rookies as like horrible?
And that could ruin the whole interview. Look at him. Look how miserable he is.
Whether or not Bill was...
No, he was miserable.
Although as the interview continued, something became obvious. Bill Burr wasn't going to blindly agree with everything Ethan said, and would always give his honest opinion, even if it hindered the course of the episode.
He's not being a good interviewee. You can be gracious, and maybe the question's not perfect, but you can, accommodate it with like a good answer and bring it back to a good place. He doesn't like to do that at all.
Ethan got his first taste.
Oh, guys, I feel bad for him already. I think I haven't seen a clip from this like so far, but from that statement alone, you can already tell like what kind of impact it had. If he was like, okay, he was a horrible interviewee, I legitimately couldn't pull anything out of him. The worst thing is like just having someone you brought on and just having nothing from them. It's even worse knowing intentionally that they really don't want to contribute to like the conversation at all, and you can clearly tell from the way they're like, yeah, sure, I did that, whatever. Like no feedback at all. It's like an Eric Andre. Remember most episodes he tries really hard to just with the guests as much as possible. But there was one episode of like Lance Reddick, I think it was, where for the first 2 minutes they couldn't like make him get a reaction because he was so like stone faced the entire time. And Eric Andre said on the video after like that episode, that's why they made him do like that I wish I was Lamar Button bit, because that episode was so like boring. They begged him to do like some kind of like bit to at least have some memorable part for the episode.
In a way, isn't it? Like, you gotta allow kids to give each other
I don't think as a parent you ever allow it.
Sure.
Although it became more obvious 10 minutes later when the two started talking about the dog whisperer.
Does he even know anything? I also wonder, does he just pretend like he knows?
Well, I think the guy knows what he's doing.
Okay,
All
all right.
right. He got a TV show. You're a really cynical guy, man.
I thought you were down. I thought you were gonna be down.
That is a lot for me to say
That means a
that.
lot from Bill Burr, the most miserable guy. He's not miserable, but I can tell a little bit that's part of his character.
Viewers gave their live reactions in a Reddit thread reading, "Am I the only one who's finding this podcast super awkward? What is wrong with Ethan? He's not laughing at any of Bill's jokes, and it's like he's lost all conversational skills," prompting a top comment reading, "Yeah, there's no chemistry between Bill and Ethan." However, things only got worse from here, as after 54 minutes of talking...
I like how they pin on Ethan as if it was his fault for having like no ability to interact with him.
Pretty perceptive. It's like you care
Well,
about your own child.
Listen, more than that, okay? Because again, you're this character. You gush over your daughter. Not everyone gushes. Did your dad gush over you?
My dad actually at work did. And he also had a zillion kids.
That is kind of like a weird direction to go.
I don't know, dude. The internet's too weird to give out all that information.
Oh, you don't even want to say how many because you're afraid that it will
Yeah,
somehow
by all means,
compromise your
keep talking
privacy.
about it. Is there any way you can cut this out? I'm honest, dude. Like,
Seriously?
Yeah, no, dude. There's lunatics out there.
Well,
Off the air, I'll cut it.
all right.
Jeez.
Sheesh.
I love how surprised
so-
he is. Jeez.
Well,
There's
you can mention the
there's
amount.
absolutely crazy people out
Okay,
there.
yeah. No. All right. I don't know why that got so.
I mean, if that was me, I'd just go on my phone, just go on Twitter, whatever. I would just drag out the entire episode for 1 hour, be like, okay, we're done.
Curious and open, the conversation failed to flow for a pretty obvious reason.
You could not have picked two totally different people to get together and have an interview.
This could be observed when Ethan doubled down on the compliments.
You might not like the episode, but how dedicated do you have to be to the podcast, to the H3 brand, to make an episode criticizing one bad episode of a
The
guest?
podcast in a casket. 12 years beforehand, in 2006, Bill Burr had performed a stand-up set in Philadelphia where he basically roasted the audience to their face, and in response he was booed by everyone. The set has since been considered legendary given Bill would even go there. However, when Ethan brought it up on their episode, Bill Burr wasn't looking to talk about it.
It was when you were getting booed by thousands
God,
of people
I was
in
hoping
Philly.
you were. I was like, when you said my favorite
don't-
YouTube video, I was like, oh God, not the Philly thing again. Now I hate you.
Oh no.
I hate you for bringing up the iconic set I did in one city that made me popular.
Joking. I'm okay, let's do it.
But do you? But, no, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna ask you.
Were booed, and you've been booed before.
You've talked about this.
Man,
a lot.
I hate famous comedians.
No, but go ahead.
There's one really overdone topic on this channel is just watching comedians be assholes to anyone and everyone.
Well, what am I? Yeah, right.
You know, you could-
And now, what do you want me to be? Well, what was going through your head, Bill, when you're getting booed by all those people?
I don't know.
Yet the two completed the episode by insisting that things had gone well.
I almost made it through without making an ass of myself. I got so close.
What are you talking about? I had a great time.
I did too. I really did.
I hope you
Oh,
did.
they made
I'm worried
up.
about you.
It's like two friends pulling their hair out of each other, but then hugging at the end. That's cute.
Longtime H3H3 fan, but I'm really struggling staying with the podcast. We all knew that Ethan wasn't a great podcast partner / interviewer, but today it's just horrible. Bill's realness really contrasts Ethan's wacky performance, which is furthered by a meme reading who would win.
God.
Stand-up comedian, actor, voice artist, writer, musician, producer and social critic, industry veteran at 25 plus years, or a comedian who dresses up in costumes and says the memes.
Oh my god, that sucks. Whoever made that should have like any photo editing software, like Photoshop, taken off the computer. Like, I've never really cared about Ethan, right? But I find it fascinating, like, whenever you have huge people that have fans that swear by their heart that they love them, but then it just makes, like, criticizing, like, the smallest thing ever, like, they didn't like. Like, most people that would joke about that, be like, oh, you sucked that episode, I couldn't watch all of it. They would suck if they were, like, the interviewer asking him questions, because I feel like Bill Burr is the kind of person that, no matter, like, how well you try to, like, steer a conversation, if you're not, like, 10 years deep into the comedic game as he is, then he just won't give you his time and attention. Like, apart from this podcast, I'm sure there were 3 others that were, like, kind of small, but they were lucky enough to, like, get him on because of, like, the manager or whatever, and it was the exact same kind of, like, outcome where he just barely tried to have any, you know, fun conversation topics because he didn't care about the other person.
Highlighted, you know you messed up when you make Bill Burr cringe, and in the one and only post questioning, am I the only one around here who didn't think the interview with Bill Burr was bad? The top comment simply stated yes. On the video itself, KG stated, this just made me like Bill more than
I like Sonny V too, but my brain turns off when he brings up Reddit. It's the worst place to show criticism.
Bill Burr is get a grip. There's going to be 1 million people watching this. If you don't want to do it, don't come. Don't be a crank. There's no room for crank.
Exactly, Red Bar Radio, multiple guy.
that Bill Burr was the douche, as he was purposely trying to be superior to Ethan the entire time. And the siblings.
Of course, that post only got 2 upvotes. Of course.
I know how many siblings Bill Burr has. Let's use this info to find him somehow. Bill came off as that baby boomer kind of guy who doesn't quite get what you are saying, and to compensate tries to make you feel uncomfortable. This was also argued by another user.
Aren't they about the same age? But yeah, I know what he means.
What would that
Not
kind
true.
of information ever benefit me, even if I was someone who would have vicious thoughts in their head? Ridiculously overreacted, although as was highlighted in the comments.
That's true, yeah, exactly. Even if you had siblings, right? What kind of ravenous fan would be so desperate to see what kind of, like, stand-up comedy they do? Like, surely they're not famous themselves, or else there would be like a Burr celebrity family, I guess.
So poorly, Ethan cancelled all of his following podcast guests.
I was canceling episodes after that.
And instead hosted 7 weeks worth of episodes with just him and his wife, one of which addressing how the show had become hated.
It feels like nobody likes this podcast and everybody wants it to go away, but somebody likes it. I mean, people watch it, right? This
Few out there.
This person
Actually,
likes
of course.
it.
This was addressed in detail only 2 videos later, in which Ethan didn't reference the Bill Burr episode, but explained that something had derailed his life.
About 2-3 months ago is when I kind of hit rock bottom, and I was just so miserable that I was so tired. I no longer wanted to be myself.
As a result of this unspecified event, Ethan had begun using antidepressants.
So I had this bottle of antidepressants in my bedside.
Surely you could sue someone for having that bad of, like, an episode that ruins your life.
The only alternative to ditching the podcast completely.
I have thought about quitting the podcast, honestly.
A lot.
Yeah. Because it's been
Oh my
such a
God.
pain. It's been such a pain.
There would be fans that made fun of him one day for the episode of Bill Burr, and then would cry their eyes out when they cancelled the podcast.
It's so
There would be.
painful at times.
Ethan
Never
is
trust, like, how committed a fan is. They will always just flip at the smallest sign of something bad.
Theo Von. You see, Theo had his own disaster podcast with Bill, where Bill also acted
I called it, see?
towards Theo for asking fairly innocent questions.
Do you keep a weapon on yours or no?
On what?
In your, I don't know if you have a helicopter, if you rent a
Do I
helicopter.
really have to answer that? He knows goddamn well I have a
Oh,
weapon.
what
are you doing?
a prick, dude! Just picking it up like a kid. But it's weird that Theo Von had him as well, because at least with him, I'd say he's more well known for being a comedian than Ethan. But it's weird that even, like, now he's still being like a prick. Like, who are you? I don't care.
You don't? You wouldn't have a gun? I don't think it's obtuse really to think you might have a weapon in there with you. Think about it.
Yeah, think about it.
Okay, all right.
You think about it.
All right.
Yeah, no.
Okay, fine.
In Theo's defense, he doesn't really the kind of guy to, like, shoot an Asian guy on the street at the smallest sign of agitation.
The Bill Burr episode.
I went into therapy after that episode. I'm not
Did you really?
I'm not even being kidding. I mean, I was having a depressive episode for a long time.
Right.
And I had these antidepressants next to my bed. And after that episode with Bill Burr, I came home, and that's when I started taking antidepressants, and I went to therapy.
Wow.
It was soul crushing.
Ethan then explained why the interview was so tough for him.
When he sees an opening, he like attacks.
Yeah.
He is unlike anyone else I've ever interviewed because he's not willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. He will expose any chinks in your armor.
And that the hardest part to deal with was how the audience reacted.
It didn't feel that bad, but it was the reaction, the audience reaction to it afterward.
However, for those revisiting the original podcast, Ethan admitting to therapy opened a brand new point of criticism.
Oh, you
H3 just said bullying
you
was
spineless
important.
cucks.
That's rich considering he needed therapy and antidepressants after a simple conversation with Bill Burr. It's ironic that Ethan said sometimes kids need to be bullied when he later cried about how hard the Bill Burr interview was. The fact that he went into therapy after this—
I think it was more about the waves of rabid fans criticizing for that in just one episode.
Exactly 1 year after the first Bill Burr interview, Ethan made a post on Instagram reading, "It was an honor to be fat-shamed today by the great Bill Burr," confirming the two had done another interview. Surprisingly, it was Bill Burr who suggested the redo.
And then Bill Burr reached
Let's
out
get
to us
a good
on the
episode.
second time. He reached out to us, and the second one, everyone thought went great. They said it was the
Oh, if he
redemption.
reached out, that was like a manager that wanted to be like, okay, we have to improve your image a bit. I mean, I don't know. Bill Burr's fans seem like the kind of person that would always like die by him, no matter like how much of an asshole he is on a podcast.
No.
Especially given how it changed his day-to-day life.
Taking antidepressants, going to therapy was like the best choice I ever made for me and my family, and professionally too. I mean, it's made everything better.
Oh, did you not show the new episode? I was probably like, so it went at least better, I guess, yeah. If there wasn't like a second return of like the terror, that means it went a little bit better, thank God. But man, that should be like the saddest story of like the fan base just being fans in general. Like, I'm sure the podcast with Bill Burr kind of like made him depressed a little bit because I'm sure he looked up to him as well. But I feel it was more like the huge flood of fans making fun of him for his podcast where they watch every single episode, but just because they saw this one out of nowhere that wasn't quite as good, they immediately was like, you know, I never saw the podcast was that good. I think it's kind of overrated, to be honest. And just turn in every bad sign like possible. That's why I hate Reddit. It really just like bolsters the kind of like mob mentality where the second they have like one small criticism you have like posts with hundreds of like comments being like, yeah, I agree, this part was bad, and just like make everyone believe in this one opinion that even though like that one, each fan individually doesn't believe in that hard, they like having like one huge group to kind of like attack someone that they used to like. Which for Ethan, that's kind of depressing to see like he had to go in therapy, because I mean personally, it didn't seem like the backlash was that bad, but at the same time, Ethan does seem to me that like he has thicker skin, so maybe if it was like anyone else in his shoes that had like that kind of, was in that situation, they'd probably have like a way worse reaction than just taking like antidepressants and going to therapy. Because even in this video, he did mention like it wasn't just the episode that led up to people getting angry. It was like it was also like the time period of just like not uploading anything apart from like that game ad, which wasn't that bad. But fans, because fans are like hyenas, they demand content all the time. So once they get something, they would just like, I feel like when you upload a video like during a moment of like inactivity, that video, no matter like how high quality it is, they would just pick it apart because they see it as like being more high quality simply because it was the first video to come out in a while. And unfortunately, this was just the worst one possible. Maybe if like he like postponed it with Bill Burr a little bit later, so at least like fans would be more relaxed, it might have been better. Plus at least then Bill Burr will know a little bit more. But I could already tell just from like the podcast and with like the other one with Theo Vaughn that he had no energy for any of them. So unless he did a podcast for 10 years, I really doubt it could have gone any better, you know? It's like how they say, like never meet your hero, so I guess it's that part as well, you know?